3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place where you're not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network. This is a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, that free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. And as always, you could get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. We're rocking and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific today. Coming up, hour 20 from now, we'll do a little college football fix with the head coach at South Carolina in Shane Beamer, as we'll preview the Gamecock season. And then at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific, the man that was on the sidelines last night for the very entertaining game between the Dallas Mavericks and the Oklahoma City Thunder, Jared Greenberg, NBA on TNT, will join us as well. But we start the show today with some football, and we were on the air yesterday when we got the breaking news in the final hour of the show that the inevitable Jared Goff extension, basically $53 million a year, got paid and got handed out and got agreed upon yesterday. And I gave you my thoughts on it, where the Lions had to do it. The Lions are in a spot where for the first time in like forever, they walk into a season with a legitimate chance to win a Super Bowl. That trade with the Rams and the Lions was a win-win all around, and that is a rarity in sports. But when you go through that trade, which was originally Jared Goff going to the Lions along with 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick for Matthew Stafford, you got to give credit to the Lions front office because they turned those 3 picks into actually 6 players through other deals. We know how good Sam Laporta has been, Jahmyr Gibbs, you have Jamison Williams, and we'll see guys like Broderick Martin, Josh Paschal, and Afatu Melifonwu if they could break out as well. But those were the 6 players in addition to Goff that the Lions were able to get for trading Matthew Stafford to the Rams. And the Rams, they won their Super Bowl. So that's worth it 10 times out of 10. And now for the Lions, it's their turn to take the baton, and it's their turn to make that dash to the Lombardi Trophy, and we'll see if they could do that. But with having a guy like Jared Goff, who is a good quarterback and who's been to Super Bowl before, has been to another NFC title game, now in 2 different stops, the Super Bowl in LA and then the NFC title game in Detroit, this is a move where when you have a guy that's good, and yes, you're overpaying him and you're giving him great money, it's a move you have to do because what else were the Lions going to do? And quite frankly, Jared Goff deserved the contract. Like the Lions, to get a guy like Goff and to have the success that they've had the last 2 years and be on the verge of being a team that is a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and they enter the season as a Super Bowl contender, you don't mess around with that. You don't play around with that, and you don't want the contract lingering over the organization. Like, this is different than Dak Prescott in Dallas. This is different than Tua Tagovailoa in Miami. The relationship may have ran its course in Dallas, and maybe Dak wants out. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But Dak has a no-trade clause or no tag clause in his contract. So if he wants to get to free agency, he's had enough with Jerry Jones, he has the power to do that. And for someone like Tua, because I know people will say, but Zach, you just said Jared Goff's a good quarterback, not a great quarterback. He already got paid. Why aren't you saying that Tua Tagovailoa should have already been paid by Stephen Ross? Because I haven't seen it enough yet consistently from Tua Tagovailoa. Sure, Tua registered as a top 5 quarterback last year from a statistical standpoint. Did anyone actually think Tua Tagovailoa was a top 5 quarterback in the league, though, last year? No. Because anytime he went up against good teams, he held his team back. Whether it was Kansas City twice, whether it was the Buffalo Bills at the end of the season, I didn't see a rush or a need to rush to pay Tua Tagovailoa. And all I'm asking for before you give him the big bag, all I'm asking for is that he replicates the success from a year ago and improves off of it. And if Tua Tagovailoa is in the same ballpark as he was a year ago in 2024, you know inevitably he's going to get that deal. Goff's time was now. Tua's time should be probably next offseason. And Dak, I think the ball is in his court this time, a little bit, not necessarily this time, but like a month or 2 before this time next year. Because for Dak, it comes down to, we know him and Jerry Jones aren't getting a deal done this offseason. So will you get it done next offseason, or do you want to go elsewhere? But we enter this NFL season, as it's only May 14th in the year of 2024, where quarterbacks are always the big talk. And you really look at it the last few years, we've seen some big trades go down. We've seen some big quarterbacks leave via free agency. Brady going to the Bucs, right? Leaving New England. That started it all. You had Russell Wilson. I know that was a short tenure, but that was a big deal at the time. He got traded to the Denver Broncos. Aaron Rodgers getting traded to the Jets from the Green Bay Packers. Deshaun Watson getting traded from the Texans, going to the Cleveland Browns. Matthew Stafford, as we talked about, getting dealt from the Lions and going to the LA Rams. So we've seen a lot of quarterback movement with big quarterback names. And entering this season, it's time for the payoff on a lot of these quarterbacks. Like, there's pressure on Tua going into this season. I know Jared Goff just got paid, so there's not financial pressure, but there's pressure to deliver the Lions a championship. There's pressure on Dak this upcoming season. There's pressure on Lamar Jackson because you keep on getting close, but yet so far. Same thing with Josh Allen. There's pressure on Aaron Rodgers. Heck, now there's pressure on Kirk Cousins. I didn't think there was any pressure on Kirk Cousins, but when you give a guy $100 million guaranteed on a 4-year contract and then you draft his replacement and you don't even let him breathe and enjoy the first season, there's immediate pressure for Kirk Cousins to succeed, because if you don't succeed, you know what's happening. Those Falcons fans are going to eventually be begging to see Michael Penix Jr. get on the field, the 8th overall pick. But through all those quarterbacks, and there's different degrees of pressure. There's pressure to win a championship. There's pressure to keep your job. Like, the word pressure is very ambiguous. And the way you define pressure and how you view the pressure on someone can impact the question that I'm going to ask in terms of which quarterback is under the most pressure this season. Because the guy that I'm going to give is not under pressure financially. Like, he's not on the verge of losing his job because of how much money they did commit to him and how many years they did commit to him, with the contract being fully guaranteed. Cough, cough, it's Deshaun Watson. But there is now pressure on Deshaun Watson to make those payments on the field for what they're paying you to do. And you got to step up and deliver. And I know it's complicated with Deshaun Watson because of what he was accused of off the field and how scary and how frightening that was. But as we've seen in sports before, if you're not sitting in a jail cell, if one team moves on from you, especially when you have talent, there will be at least one team that will be willing to go above and beyond to get your services. And that's what the Cleveland Browns did. They traded a king's ransom of assets to the Texans, and it's worked out for the Texans, obviously, to go get Deshaun Watson. And then they doubled down and gave him a fully guaranteed contract. So the Browns last year, with Deshaun Watson getting hurt, and you had an abundance of quarterbacks get on the field. And, you know, Joe Flacco ended up winning Comeback Player of the Year. He was on the couch. He gets into that organization, and they end up getting to the postseason, where they did lose to the Houston Texans. But that was a team that exceeded expectations last year once you had the quarterback get hurt. And Kevin Stefanski is now a 2-time Coach of the Year award winner. And I thought last year that Stefanski and Watson were going to butt heads, and there was going to be a power play that was won by Deshaun Watson. If, let's say, the Browns regress this year, and let's just say Deshaun Watson does not perform to the level that he is capable of on the field, I don't want to hear the criticism about Kevin Stefanski. Because Kevin Stefanski won a Coach of the Year and led the Browns to the playoffs and won them a playoff game. I know he had COVID and he wasn't technically on the field for that playoff game, with Baker Mayfield as his quarterback. Kevin Stefanski, with far removed elite Joe Flacco in his later part of his career for Joe Flacco, when his career looked like it was over, he got that team, he got that quarterback play out of Joe Flacco to get the Browns to the playoffs a year ago. So don't give me this nonsense. If Watson doesn't perform well, that now all of a sudden we have to question Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski is the right man for the job for the Cleveland Browns. And if you disagree, and we know how many coaches the Browns have had through the last 20 years, tell me the last Browns coach that has got that team to the playoffs twice and has also won 2 Coach of the Year awards. I'll wait. So this Browns team going into this year is under an enormous amount of pressure because, number one, you're playing the toughest conference, right? AFC's toughest conference. You're playing the toughest division. That's the AFC North. And you have a roster that is well-rounded. This is a damn good roster on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And we have not seen Deshaun Watson, who was on the trajectory of being an elite quarterback, who was a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. We have not seen that top 7 version out of him since 2020. That's a long, long time. He sat out all of 2021 because before we found out some of the allegations off the field, he was done with the Texans either way. Then 2022, he served the suspension, only played in 6 games. And last year, he got hurt and only played in 6 games. The last time we saw Deshaun Watson at elite level, or on the verge of being an elite quarterback, was 2020. I know the team stunk, but he had a 70.2 completion percentage, threw for 4,823 yards, and had 33 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, and those are 33 passing touchdowns. He also had 3 rushing touchdowns that year. I need to see Deshaun Watson this year get close to being that quarterback again. And I don't think Deshaun Watson will ever be viewed as an elite top 7 quarterback again in this league. I think the days of Deshaun Watson being thought of as potentially being a great quarterback are behind us. But now his ceiling could still be a very good quarterback. And he needs to show me that he could still be a good or very good quarterback again. And we haven't seen that through his own stupidity, through injuries as well, in a very long time. So I enter this football season with all the names that we could discuss. And I think the quarterback under the most pressure with the contract that was given to him, with the last 2 years, him basically being a non-factor, I need to see Deshaun Watson capitalize. I need to see him be a very good quarterback once again. And there's no other place to point the finger to now. Stefanski, 2-time coach of the year. Andrew Berry has done a really good job as the general manager of this team. And this is a well-rounded football team with, let me add, one of the better rosters in the entire NFL. No more excuses for Deshaun Watson. He's the quarterback under the most pressure entering this upcoming season. Stu, we'll open this up to everybody else at 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Pressure is very ambiguous. Pressure to lose your job, pressure to win a championship, pressure to succeed. There's many ways that you could define pressure. When we enter this season, who is the quarterback in the NFL under the most pressure for you and why?
For me, it's Dak Prescott, and it's someone who is playing for a contract extension, so it could be, he could be heading towards the end of his time at the Cowboys. He's playing for the job of Mike McCarthy. They need to get done in the playoffs. Dak now 2-5 in the playoffs. Let's put up or shut up time, Dave. Surround him with talent. They brought back McCarthy for one more year. Dak needs to, try to get that extension. I think Dak is the one who, and they also play in a conference. They play in the easier conference, and there's a playoff spot. I know the Eagles are good, but they should be a wild card team at the least, and they should make a deep playoff run if he's a franchise quarterback like some think he is.
Yeah, so here's my problem with Dak. I've seen this story too many times. I think we all know with Dak, and I'm not saying there isn't pressure on Dak, because that would be extremely hypocritical of me when we talk about Dak September, October, November, December, doing a national show. The thing, though, with Dak is I want to know what he wants. I want to know if Dak wants to stay in Dallas or if Dak is already thinking, I got one foot in Dallas, but my next foot is out the door, and I could find a way to hit free agency this offseason guaranteed because I have that no-tag clause in that contract. And I'm not saying that people look to make excuses for the Cowboys because we don't. Trust me, we blast the Cowboys enough, referring to them as the drama Dallas choking Cowboys on this show. But there are some excuses that can be made for Dak this year. You got a lame duck coach. You don't have clarity on your contract. And honestly, Jerry Jones said that they were all in. They have not been all in. This roster got worse from where it was a year ago. And I'm not saying Dak isn't under pressure because Dak is always under pressure. But I'm just at the point where when I look at Dak, I know what's going to happen. Like maybe they regress this year and they don't win as many games as they've done the last 3 years, 12 wins in every game of the regular season. 12 wins the last 3 years. But even if the Cowboys have this good regular season and Dak looks like an MVP, which some people thought last year, it will be just wait to the playoffs. But I think it's a good one. It's just one for me it's like watching the same movie over and over again. You sit on the edge of your seat, You make yourself a big bowl of popcorn, and you're licking your fingers with the butter filled all over them from the popcorn, and you're drinking a soda or something. You go, I wonder if the movie's going to change this time around. Hey, dummy, the movie's already produced. It's going to be the same outcome year in and year out. Carlos, who's your quarterback under the most pressure entering this season?
All right.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Can you just grab that microphone and bring it down and drop? You sit so low to the ground that microphone is so far away from your mouth.
Or I'll get a taller chair. Who knows? Maybe things will happen during the break here. I'm going to go with a guy you briefly mentioned, Russell Wilson. Now, no financial pressure because he's getting paid out the wazoo from Denver. Denver said, forget it, go away. He's on a tremendous amount of pressure because this is going to be a make-it-or-break-it year in terms of the rest of his career being a starter. If he flails in Pittsburgh, not only does he have to look over his shoulder at Justin Fields, who the Steelers also picked up, and Justin Fields is going to be chomping at the bit to be a starter.
Well, we think. According to some teammates, they may have him returning kicks. The moment you have Justin Fields returning kicks, that means he's not your quarterback.
That doesn't make any sense to me, but I digress. Fields, at least, he has his years ahead of him. He's going to have another opportunity somewhere down the road, whether it's Pittsburgh or somewhere else. Russell Wilson, he might be looking at the backup route for the rest of his career if he flails out here. Yeah, I know he's only making $1 million with the Steelers, but this is it. I don't think teams are going to be willing to pony up any real money for him to be a starter if he absolutely stinks out.
Well, not only that, he could be playing himself out of the Hall of Fame.
This is a legacy play for sure.
Like Russell Wilson, I think he's made 9 Pro Bowls or something like that. It may be 10, but Russell Wilson was on that path of being a Hall of Fame 9 Pro Bowls for Russell Wilson. And no one really had a negative word to say about Russ. But it's kind of tough to make the Hall of Fame where even though he won a Super Bowl in Seattle, he was not the first guy you thought of for that Super Bowl. You thought of the LOB first, you thought of Pete Carroll second, and Marshawn Lynch third. And then you throw an interception at the goal line to lose the Super Bowl the next year. And then once you got out of Seattle, you weren't just bad in Denver. You were a disaster. And I'm just starting to wonder, if he can't go have another good season. He was fine last year. But if you can't have a good season in an environment that is set up to win. The Steelers made the playoffs last year with no quarterback. With Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett. PU. But if you can't just be above average, I think a lot of people remember things that happened recently rather than earlier in time. And I think it could complicate the chances of Russell Wilson getting into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and even when he was good with the 10 years of Seattle, never won MVP.
No.
So
I don't think he ever got a vote until maybe the last year or something.
Really late into his career. So his legacy is on the line here. People are going to, like you said, recency bias. They're going to remember him stinking, essentially, if he, rather than all the good in Seattle, if he doesn't absolutely light it up in Pittsburgh.
Who's a quarterback under pressure entering this season? Stu goes Dak, Carlos goes Russell Wilson, and I go with Deshaun Watson. 855-212-4227. LeBron showed up to Cleveland last night, sitting courtside. What does that mean for the future of LeBron James? We discuss next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Who is a QB that's under the most pressure entering this season? I go with Deshaun Watson. Stu had Dak Prescott. And Carlos, with the K, does go with Russell Wilson. Let's hear from you, 855-212-4227. We go to Joe in Pennsylvania. First up on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Joe, what's happening?
How you doing, bud?
Doing great, Joe. What do you got cooking for us today?
Hey, talking about quarterbacks under pressure. How about that Kyler Murray?
It's a great one, especially because they ended up getting him, and thanks for the phone call, Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft. And for Kyler Murray, see, I think Kyler Murray, because he was hurt, is kind of out of sight, out of mind. And you walked into last season looking at the Cardinals as a team that was going to be tanking and maybe drafting the replacement for Kyler Murray. And I know they ended up being the 4th overall pick, so I wouldn't suggest that they had a great season. But for the little assets that the Cardinals actually had a solid season last year. They played tough for Jonathan Gannon. Monty Ossenfort made that big trade we're sure they got the Texans' first-round pick, and you thought that was going to be a top-5 pick, but it didn't end up being that. It was in the 20s because of how good the Texans were. But that's an organization that I think they're on the right track. They're in a tough division where right now you're trying to figure out what the future of the Seahawks will be with the new coach coming in, Mike McDonald replacing Pete Carroll. But then you also look at the other two teams. The 49ers right now are the standard in that division. The Rams are still a heck of a team, even though they just lost Aaron Donald to retirement. But for Kyler Murray, this is the year where I look at Kyler and I'm going to find out if he is really the quarterback that is going to be the QB for this team, led by Monty Ossenfort and led by Jonathan Gannon. And Murray has been a good QB in the NFL. The injury with how it happened so late 2 seasons ago and wiped out most of his season this past year is unfortunate. But for someone like Kyler Murray, he has been a great quarterback in most places he's gone, going back to high school, in college, and in the NFL, he got off to a fine start. He had a terrible end to the season, and he's dealt with some injuries, and you saw that relationship just run its course with Cliff Kingsbury. But now this is kind of the decision-making time where the dead cap goes from $111 million this year down to $63 million. And even though that's still an enormous amount of money, we've seen teams move on from quarterbacks, even if they still have a tremendous amount of dead cap. And now I got to see if Murray could get back to form in that trajectory where he was heading on before the injury, even though there were some questions before because they gave him the money when, quite frankly, the Cardinals didn't need to give him the money. And you look back at that regime, they gave Keim and Kingsbury the extension when they were not deserving of it. And if you were telling me at the time, I know they've since moved on, that you believe in the quarterback, or excuse me, you believe in the GM and you believe in the coach, well, then you had to pay the quarterback as well. And that's when Kyler Murray got all of his leverage. But now you have the money, Kyler Murray. You have to go on the field and not even be great. Like, I don't think anyone looks at this Cardinals team this year and they expect playoffs. But if, like, Arizona somehow went 9-8 this year, was anyone going to be shocked? If they find a way to back their way into the postseason or weekend and see in a wild card spot, I wouldn't. But for, like, Kyler Murray this year, he needs to walk away, take away the team success. I need you to tie them together. But you got to look at Kyler Murray this year, even with the roster that's still not great, and say, okay, there's signs that this dude could still be the guy. And if they don't feel that way, maybe they give him another year because of the finances, but there are no attachments outside of money. There's no emotional attachment for a guy like Monty Ossenfort or Jonathan Gannon. And you know this in this sport, a lot of times people want to get their own guys in. And Kyler Murray is not a Monty Ossenfort guy. Kyler Murray is not a Jonathan Gannon guy. And there's a lot of intrigue surrounding Kyler Murray, even though we haven't talked about him a lot within the last year because he was coming back from that injury before returning in last season. So let me just spend a moment or two talking about LeBron. Here is the latest on LeBron. James Borrego is in the mix for the coaching search. J.J. Redick is. And then Sam Cassell, the former guard who has been on an assistant for a while, and he has not got a head coaching job. I was reading via Shams today that those are the 3 finalists, I guess, for the job, or the 3 candidates that are getting the most serious consideration. And I also heard from Shams Charania that Coach K is being used as a reference here and kind of as someone that's guiding this coaching search. So, Stu, out of those options, Borrego, Redick, and Sam Cassell, how do you rank those 3 on who you would want to see as the next head coach of your Los Angeles Lakers?
So Redick is definitely third on that list. You know what? Sam Cassell has been a guy who's been on the radar for a while now. Really hasn't gotten an opportunity. I wouldn't mind Borrego, but I'm kind of intrigued by Cassell. So if I had the choice of those 3, I'd go Cassell 1, Borrego 2, Redick 3.
I'm in the same line of thinking as you. And I also just read during the break that Jason Lloyd, who covers the NBA and covers the Cavs, he said the Lakers are expected to be at the front of the line to acquire Donovan Mitchell this summer. If Mitchell doesn't sign an extension with Cleveland this summer, the Cavs will have to explore trade options, and one of the teams standing at the front of the line will be the Lakers. It's possible, given Mitchell's current condition with his calf, that he has already played his final game in a Cavs jersey. So picks you would be giving up to get Donovan Mitchell from the Lakers, because I don't think any of those players are really assets that they
probably
want.
would be the main piece, but yeah, right. Three first-round picks.
So you could have LeBron, AD, and Mitchell next season. Mitchell dealing with the calf right now. LeBron, ever since getting to the Lakers, has had injury problems, and we know, just like how every day ends in Y, that Anthony Davis also every year has an injury as well. So that would be a fine team. Right, you go get Donovan Mitchell. I think it reignites your excitement a little bit. I don't think you're winning a championship, but that's a group that would be fun to watch at least.
It excites me more, but the concern I have is, again, it's the same thing when they traded for Russell Westbrook. They're depleting their bench so much that it's going to be those three guys and no bench.
It turns into the Suns, where
exactly what Carlos just said.
It would be a better big three than what the Suns have with Durant and Booker and Beal. Because if you look at that third piece, I'd much rather have Donovan Mitchell than Bradley Beal at both of their stages of their career. But the Suns had no chance, A, because Durant hates, hated Frank Vogel, hated everyone else in the locker room too, and just wanted to be by himself, because that's Kevin Durant. And you looked at the rest of that team, even when those guys were healthy, which was never, they didn't have much else to offer. I thought it was weird last night. I know LeBron was home for Mother's Day, I read, and that's why he was in Cleveland, and they ended up getting invited to the game by Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cavs. And we know LeBron obviously had 2 stints in Cleveland. But seeing him courtside, I was like, that's a good move by LeBron. Because LeBron is all about the drama this offseason to improve the stock of Bronny and get people to operate under this belief that if you draft Bronny, LeBron's going to join you, when in all likelihood LeBron probably comes back to the Lakers. But I do think there's a contingent of us that we want to see LeBron go elsewhere, because this relationship with the Lakers has really run its course. And I don't want to see the last year or two of LeBron's career not giving him a legitimate chance to win a championship. So I would like to see him go elsewhere. But even though I don't think he's going back to Cleveland, it does make people get nostalgic and go, oh, could you imagine if he goes home for a third time and he ends up going back to Cleveland? So that was a smart way of LeBron, who you remember earlier this year, he did that interview walking out of the Garden with the Knicks towel. And hey, LeBron and Leon Rose used to be very close. LeBron's agent was Leon Rose. And then, right, Rich Paul learned from Leon Rose, and then they broke off and they formed Clutch Sports. But that's one of those things where LeBron isn't a dummy. LeBron knows how to keep his name in the news, where we probably shouldn't be talking about LeBron outside of his future right now. We end up talking about LeBron and also his future because of the fact that he's sitting at the Cavs game last night. And it's kind of funny how he just walked out so nonchalantly, just walking out onto the court with his wife, and he sits down. And when they did a video, I think, everyone gets a video these days, but he's actually deserving of the video. And they did a video for him. I don't know, maybe it was just a bad video that I saw on Twitter. I thought there'd be a lot more of a thunderous reaction to LeBron coming back, because he did deliver the Cavs a championship, and we know he's one of the greatest players of all time. Anyway, 855-212-4227. Marco Belletti is here. And Marco, we were talking about who could be the next Lakers coach. Mm-hmm. I heard you were sitting next to Shep, and also on Bart Winkler's show, and Shep thought he could be a great coach for the Los Angeles Lakers.
X's and O's, JV basketball.
Yeah. My favorite part about that, and I could tell your disgust with it, because whenever Marco just goes, what are we doing here? That's when I know Marco is infuriated with the topic. And the funniest part about the whole thing is because he had, I guess, some level of success as a JV coach in high school, that he thinks he could do a better job than a guy that was an assistant for 10 damn years, won an NBA championship as assistant coach in Darvin Ham, and now he's out of a job. But Shep thinks he could do a better job than Darvin Ham.
Look, I just struggle with anybody with anything where they're talking about doing things on a professional level and they really have no reason to believe any of that. And again, it's not a knock on Shep, because I did it in front of his face. I don't care. I believe that he's a good coach. I believe that, and I know he knows basketball.
But there's a difference coaching JV in the NBA.
There's a
Hot take of
respect
the
level
day.
that you must have in a locker room.
Yeah.
That's my problem. It's not the X's and O's. I'm not concerned with whether or not you can draw up a good pick and roll. I'm concerned with you walk in the locker room and everybody looks at you and goes, who the hell are you? That's my concern. That's the stuff that people don't realize when they go, I can do this. You can't do this because as soon as you walk in the room, everybody goes, who are you and why the hell are you here? Those are the things that people forget. That's the part that I think we gloss over when it comes to professional sports. They're human. But they're really friggin' good at what they do.
Yep.
You have to have a modicum of respect to walk in the room to be able to speak to them on their level. And you have to earn that. It doesn't come from just osmosis. I'm sorry.
Could you imagine Shep's first pep talk to the team?
Again, because that's not about knowing basketball.
Hey guys, I coached Carmelo Anthony's kid at a JV school, so I'll draw up the play, and we'll be looking like the Showtime Lakers.
Yeah, again, X's and O's is not my, like you could grow up around it, you could know it, you could honestly, truly look at it and be able to dissect it. That
Hey,
doesn't
LeBron.
mean that you walk in the room and Anthony Davis is going to hand you a clipboard and say, sure, coach. Like, that's just not how it works.
Hey LeBron, look up at the rafters. You want to be having your number retired next to all those great players like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
When did Shep become
and Wilt Chamberlain?
Muhammad Ali? Did I miss something?
Well, he thinks he could beat Tyson in a fight. All righty. The only reason why Shep's voice sounds like that to me is when I did the Weekend Overnights, the show at the time that would follow me was John Kincaid. And John would always be like, he would always imitate Shep, and he'd be like, hey, JK, it's Shep here. We're talking basketball on at the time, CBS Sports Radio. Anyway, we'll take a timeout. I'll let Marco get to his update. We'll talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's dominance when we return, and are the Thunder getting disrespected. Update time first. Here he is, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Zach, we're sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Looking for a career path with flexibility and great pay and benefits? Go to progressive.com/careers. Apply online today. Pair of NBA playoff games coming tonight. They got a familiar theme. Each series is even at 2 after being 2-0. Knicks head back home after dropping a pair on the road. OG Anunoby ruled out again for New York. Injuries continue to mount, but Jalen Brunson is not looking for excuses.
We have what we have in that locker room. And so, yes, we are down guys, but the people who go out there, we have the utmost faith in every single one of them who goes out on that court. And so, as a team, we need to sit together, we need to be better, and that's just it going forward.
Then it's the Nuggets welcoming in the T-Wolves. Road team has won all 4 thus far. Anthony Edwards aware they dropped 2 at home, but his outlook, nothing but positive.
We won 2 games. They won 2 games. At this point, it's just whoever wins 2 games. So I don't know how people look at it, but I look at it like I'm happy. I'm ready. We're competing at the highest level, and I'm smiling about it because I'm happy. I'm ready to go play it.
Matinee baseball, you got the Phillies in front of the Mets 2-0. They're in the top of the 9th inning. NFL, the Bills come to terms. Marquez Valdez-Scantling got a 1-year deal, $4.5 million. I'm Marco Belletti.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network. That's it. Play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
The Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the armed forces, DoD veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. This week's player is Thunder big man Chet Holmgren in last night's 100-96 victory over the Mavs. Chet had 4 blocks, 1 steal, and helped hold Luka Doncic to just 6 of 20 shooting. You know, I went into that series thinking I want the Mavericks to win. And I wanted the Mavericks to win because now we're in an era of dynamic duos. And because Kyrie's actually on the court, I wanted to see Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving advance to the Western Conference Finals. But the more and more this series plays out, and it started with the Thunder going up 1-0, and people are questioning Luka Doncic because of the knee sprain. And then the Mavs win game 2, the Mavs win game 3, and in all likelihood, the Mavericks were looking like they were going to win the game last night. And then in the final 6 or 7 minutes, and he was phenomenal throughout the game, but you really got to see the brilliance of a guy that should have won the MVP, either him or Jalen Brunson, in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Because what he did last night, it wasn't just from a scoring perspective, but how many passes he made to make others around him better. And now with that series all tied up at 2 games apiece, I actually want to see the Thunder win this series because we are now in an era of dynamic duos, but we are also now in an era where we start to think about the future with LeBron not in the playoffs any longer, KD eliminated, Steph Curry didn't even get out of the play-in tournament, where we're trying to figure out who are the future faces of the league. And we know how great Nikola Jokic is. We know Giannis Antetokounmpo already got eliminated. The Knicks have been filled with injuries, but Jalen Brunson has been such a sensational story. Indiana is a gritty team. You know the Celtics are trying to win a championship with Jason Tatum and this core. Anthony Edwards was on the path of stealing the postseason, and now the Nuggets got 2 games, and we'll see who's going to win Game 5. So there's a lot of openness when it comes to the future of the NBA. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been phenomenal. And not only has he been phenomenal, and we all know he's a great player, I feel like the love for OKC has not been there. Because this has been a team that they committed to the rebuild. They had a great turnaround. They were the number 1 overall seed in the Western Conference. And most of us have just been talking about, when are they going to get eliminated from the playoffs? But what he was able to do last night, SGA, it's nothing new. It's nothing foreign. He's been doing this his entire damn career, and he just keeps on getting better and better. And he is now turned into a top 5 player in the league. And he had his moment last night where you tie that series up at 2 apiece. So I think, and let me run this by you, Stu. When you look at the Thunder, I feel like there's been a level of disrespect. And I feel like they have not garnered the same respect and attention that a number 1 overall seed usually gets with a player that was in the MVP conversation. And I'm trying to figure out why that disrespect is there. Maybe because their success is newer. Is it because of the fact that, we look at this Nuggets-Timberwolves series and it feels like that's a Western Conference Finals? But we don't even know who's going to prevail from that. And the winner of that will be the favorite up against either Dallas or Oklahoma City. But what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is doing, I would have no problem if he's the team that's the last man standing in the Western Conference and they're in the NBA Finals. Because individually, and their team's so damn good, but from an individual standpoint, SGA has been great. He has been great and really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the inexperienced thing, like you said. And combined with the fact that, you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is a great player, MVP candidate. Chet Holmgren, a lot of people know, who is a former near top draft pick. But after that, you look at their roster, Jalen Williams, Luke Dort, Josh Giddey, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe. Just not a lot of household names. A lot of young guys, a lot of guys that maybe the NBA fan that parachutes in around this time of year, they don't know who any of these players are. So I think that's a big part of it, that there aren't these veterans that the, not diehard NBA fan knows.
Billy makes a great point. Everyone hates OKC because they're sick and tired of that what a pro wants, what a pro needs commercial, which I do agree with Billy. Not necessarily that's why everyone hates OKC or they're not giving OKC the respect, but after the NCAA tournament, if that commercial did go away, I would have no problem. The fact that that commercial is still there, maybe that's what makes it a good commercial because you remember it. I don't even know the product that they're promoting, to be fair. I just know from, which maybe makes it a bad commercial. Can we find out what the product is that they're promoting?
It's AT&T.
It's AT&T?
Yeah, it's AT&T.
Because the only time I really just can recall that commercial is when you have that bad singing. what a pro wants, what a pro needs. And it's just over and over and over again, nonstop. So the Oklahoma City Thunder, man, what happened last night, it's two things. One, it's the night of the postseason where they get their respect. And that shot that SGA hit to tie up the game was just crazy. He couldn't even see the rim. It was behind the backboard. It was crazy from the corner. And he has that shot get hit. But you know what also? I'm getting a little tired of Luka Doncic. And the reason why, everyone's hurt this time of the year. He has a legitimate knee sprain. I fully comprehend that. But anytime they don't play well, remember when Urban Meyer, anytime things didn't go his way, he would like fall on the floor and he would like grab his chest and grab put his hands over his heart. And you thought like Urban Meyer was going to die on the field. That's Luka Doncic. Every time something doesn't go his way, he's falling on the floor and he's grabbing his knee. Just the antics of it. And I'm not saying he's not hurt because he's legitimately hurt. But whenever something doesn't go your way, that's when the pain just all of a sudden pops up. And like last night, it wasn't because your knee was hurting you that when you got to the charity stripe with the chance to tie the game, you missed the free throw. So I thought last night, remember how after game 2 with Jamal Murray throwing the heating pad and throwing the towel, we talked about how Denver, for the first time in this run, became unlikable. I thought the antics of Luka Doncic last night made him unlikable. That's not going to be the way that I look at his career. The dude's a phenomenal player. The dude's a top 5, top 7 player, top 8 player in the sport. But last night, I was annoyed. I was annoyed with seeing Luka Doncic kind of use the injury as an excuse when he's like falling on the court all over the place when he was not playing a good game. So, fun game last night as OKC. I don't know if we consider that one snatching victory from the jaws of defeat, but it did feel like for most of the game that the Mavs are going to win. And then when the game was up in the air in the final 6 minutes, just the brilliance of SGA and the lack of ability to hit a free throw for the Dallas Mavericks just absolutely killed him in that one. So we'll see now in a best of 3 who's going to find a way to win that series. All righty, Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We got a busy hour number 2. When we come on back, the Bills have signed Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who is a team in the NFL people are sleeping on this year, as a lot of people are out on the Buffalo Bills. We'll do some college football with Shane Beamer, the head football coach at South Carolina, and also still to come today at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific. Jared Greenberg, the phenomenal NBA on TNT reporter, he's going to stop by. He's been manning the sidelines in that Mavericks and Oklahoma City Thunder series, so we'll get his thoughts not only on that series, but the rest of the big playoff series that are underway and still going in the second round of the NBA. We're coming on back in 5 minutes. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
And away we go. Hour number 2 of our radio program. That's right. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will chat it up with Shane Beamer, the head football coach at South Carolina, coming up 20 minutes from now. Jared Greenberg will join us an hour 20 from now. We'll have you all covered on all things NBA with the NBA on TNT reporter. So I saw that Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who joined us in studio a few weeks ago, he's finally made his decision. He's going to be signing with the Buffalo Bills. You look at this Bills team, I think they're getting slept on headed into this season. I know we reached the point with the Buffalo Bills where everyone's like, I don't care what they do in the regular season. They're a good team. You know, they'll always give a good game up against Kansas City, but then when the moment is the brightest, they'll come up short. And that's a fair criticism. That's a fair level of expectation with the Buffalo Bills. But I still walk into this football season thinking the Bills are going to win the AFC East. And I still think the Bills are on the short list of contenders in the AFC. And they're high on that short list. You know, Kansas City's number 1. The Bengals are 2. You want to tell me a team like Houston is in that conversation? I will not debate it with you. I love what I'm seeing from the Houston Texans on both sides of the ball. We know how sensational their coach, DeMeco Ryans, is. But the Buffalo Bills are still a top 3 or 4 team in the AFC. And they have been right there. They have been stuck the last few years in the second round, where twice they've lost heartbreaking games to the Kansas City Chiefs. The 13-second game, and then last year, we know Tyler Bass missing that kick. But now with them having Stephon Diggs out of the organization, I think that means a lot of people start to say to themselves, okay, this is going to be the demise of the Buffalo Bills, and they'll just go down as one of those teams that they had a chance, they had an opportunity, and they just came up short. But they still have, correct me if I'm wrong, number 17 in Josh Allen. And as long as you have a top 3, a top 5 quarterback in the game, you're always going to be in it. And that window is always open. They went all in, Brandon Beane. It did not result in a championship. They had some contracts catch up to them where they had to say goodbye to players to get under the cap. And there's a retooling phase now with the Buffalo Bills. But when the Bills retool, I don't think that results in a reset. I don't think that means they're going to have to go through a year or two where you're going to be missing the playoffs. Like, this Buffalo team's going to go win 10, 11 games this year, and they're going to be a force come playoff time. And I look at what the Bills have done. You've seen the last few years, they've set themselves up for this moment where they drafted James Cook in the second round. Last year, he had his big monster season in year 2. You drafted Dalton Kincaid in the first round a year ago. He came on strong at the end of the year. You used a it was a second round pick because they traded back on Keon Coleman, but he was a first round wide receiver, first round type of talent coming out of Florida State. And then the other day, you go and sign Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who is not going to merely move the needle for me. It doesn't change my opinion about the Buffalo Bills, but it gives the Bills another resource, another asset, a guy that has caught footballs from Aaron Rodgers, has caught footballs from Patrick Mahomes, now going to do so with Josh Allen, and no crap, he needs to catch a football when it's actually thrown his way. But the Bills have a good enough offensive line led by Deion Dawkins. You have a defense that's where I wonder where they're going to be defensively. And that's my biggest concern with them. And then it's also Sean McDermott. Can you win a big game? Because the Bills were so bad for so long. And ever since McDermott has got there, they have been a consistent playoff team. But now, just being a consistent playoff team isn't good enough. You got to take that next step. And as long as you have Josh Allen in his prime, you're going to be in the conversation. You're going to be in the running for the possibility to take that next step. And losing Stephon Diggs is going to be an adjustment. But Stephon Diggs is also the same person that didn't catch a touchdown since Thanksgiving and also didn't have a 100-yard game since October. So either he's in the start of his decline as a talent in the NFL, or he was so unhappy in Buffalo, which a lot of it was his own wrongdoing, that he checked out and he knew he wanted to eventually get out, and he got his way. So I look at the Bills entering this season. I guess they're an afterthought to a lot of people because they have gone into that form of, so what do they do in the regular season? Their season really starts in the postseason. But I view them as a team that people are sleeping on. And I would still be somewhat surprised if the Bills don't win the AFC East this year just for starters. I would be surprised if the Bills aren't playing in the divisional round. And either this is the year they get over the hump and they beat Kansas City, or maybe someone else takes Kansas City out and they do your dirty work, and then you're able to beat the team that takes Kansas City out. You know, we have seen for a long time in sports, teams consistently get close, and either two things happen. One, you never break through. Or two, you do break through. You know, I'm not saying Josh Allen is Peyton Manning. I get that. Josh Allen's a damn good quarterback, though. We know number 18, though, Peyton Manning, is a top 5 quarterback, top 7 quarterback of all time. And for a while, that Brady and Belichick fellas, they were standing in the way, and Manning couldn't break through. Eventually, he did. You know, John Elway didn't win. I know he won 2 Super Bowls, but he didn't win them towards the end of his career. Sometimes there are roadblocks in your way. And I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, tough times build tough people, and you need those tough times. You need to overcome adversity to have success. Nonsense. You win a championship, especially an organization that's never won a championship in your first few years in the league. Who gives a rat's ass about not having tough times? But this Bills team, I don't think there's going to be a fall off. And I look at Buffalo as a team that will be double-digit wins, and they will have a chance. A chance. Don't mean they're going to get there, but they will have a chance to advance to a Super Bowl this year. They are not a top 2 team in the AFC, but they are not far off. They are on that list of a top 4, top 5 team in the AFC. And sometimes you can be a top 5 team in a conference and not have legit Super Bowl expectations. They are still in a Super Bowl or bust window. As long as you have 17, you are in a Super Bowl or bust window. And maybe these changes, right? Now Joe Brady taking over full-time as the offensive coordinator, getting Stephon Diggs out of the building, bringing in a Keon Coleman. We've seen a lot of wide receivers take the league by storm early now. You know, I know Jamar Chase was a top 10 pick. He had a sensational rookie season. Justin Jefferson was a top 25 pick, had a sensational rookie season. Heck, it doesn't need to be in the first round, though. Puka Nacua, year 1, as good of a rookie season as you'll see. So change usually makes people uncomfortable. Change usually elicits people to doubt. I don't think change is the worst thing for Buffalo because what they were doing the last few years worked, but it didn't work to a level where you ended up getting to a Super Bowl and you ended up winning a Super Bowl. The limitation for that group, the apex of that group, was going to an AFC championship game, which they did up against Kansas City. So now you have to tinker, now you have to alter, and we'll see if it ends up making them better. But I feel like people are sleeping on the Bills, which it's weird when they've been right in the forefront of the conversation, that I think people have looked at Buffalo and said they have fallen off the contender status. I still think they are a Super Bowl contender. Stu, who's the team that you have this year? I'll go around the room here with Stu and Carlos. Who's the team that you have entering this NFL season that you look and you say, maybe people are sleeping on them a little bit?
So it's not a team that I think is like a Super Bowl contender or anything like that, but I think it's a team that can return to the playoffs, a team that made the playoffs last year, but really is not being talked about, and that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, a lot of people are big into the Falcons, as they should be, because you get Kirk Cousins, that totally changes your trajectory. But the Bucs got a good year from Baker Mayfield. They re-signed him. They brought back Mike Evans. I just think it's a team that won 9 games. Again, I'm not saying they're going to win 11 or 12 and compete for a Super Bowl, but as good as the Falcons might be, don't forget that the Bucs are also a pretty good team, and I think Baker can continue what he did last year and get even better.
Yeah, there's been some talk about maybe a Chris Godwin trade, so we'll see what happens there. But you were able to bring back Mike Evans. I thought Mike Evans was as good as gone when free agency did begin, and they were able to retain him. Baker Mayfield, he's one of those guys that's he's a solid quarterback. He's not Heisman Trophy Baker. He won't be that in the NFL. But this is a dude that was a quarterback of the Cleveland Browns and won a playoff game with the Browns, and then had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the second round of the playoffs. And everyone gave up on Baker Mayfield, right? Jettisoned out of Cleveland, had that short time with Carolina, started to show a little sign with the Rams when he walked in there out of nowhere at the end of the season. And then this year he goes to Tampa Bay. It's like, oh, you're replacing Brady. And that team is 8-9. They're going to regress. And they got better. Now, I know they had some changes this offseason, but you're able to get the deal done with Antoine Winfield Jr. yesterday, too, on that mega record-breaking extension. They're going to be a solid football team. And I give credit to Todd Bowles last year because I don't think Todd Bowles is a good NFL head coach. I don't. Todd Bowles proved me wrong, though, last year. Todd Bowles did a really good job with that team. And I get that division is not good. I have no confidence in the Saints entering this season. I don't think the Panthers will be a playoff team. That feels like a two-team race. Like, the Saints will be competitive for that division, but I just don't ever believe that the Saints get the job done. And yes, I believe Atlanta is the team to beat in that division, but you do look at Tampa Bay, they never get that respect outside of when Brady was there and they won the Super Bowl. They don't get that respect nationally, and that's a team that even without Tom Brady, the first year without Tom Brady, they proved they could still be a damn good team. So it's a good one that you bring up there, Stu. Carlos, who's your team?
Give me the Indianapolis mini horses. People are sleeping on the Colts.
Wait, can you do that sound effect again? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I don't know. I mean, I guess that's what a young horse would sound like, but
yeah.
I'll take the Colts. Everybody's in love with what C.J. Stroud did last year with the Texans, and deservedly so. He was an MVP caliber quarterback, but the Colts were only one game behind him. Anthony Richardson, if he doesn't get hurt, I think the Colts are in the playoffs. They return a lot.
I don't even think it's the quarterback situation. If they would have just put, and I've said this 9,000 times, I feel like in the last month, if they would have just put Jonathan Taylor on the damn field instead of their third-string running back, they would have been in the playoffs last year. So Steichen's a heck of a coach for what he. That was one of the guys I was most impressed with last year in the NFL, Shane Steichen. When he got hired, I know he was with the Chargers. I know he was with the Eagles. And I'm like, how good of a head coach is this guy really going to be? I had my doubts. I had my concerns about Shane Steichen. You lose your quarterback early on. You make Gardner Minshew be solid. You have a solid defense there in Indianapolis. The offensive line came back to life. I'm with you. That Colts team and that division too.
It's winnable.
That's an excellent division.
It's a winnable, but it is really good. But it's still winnable. Houston didn't run away with it. They've definitely made some moves. I would love to see how Diggs fits in with everything. I think it's gonna be great. But
the Texans are deserving of being the lead dog. But if you tell me that, and I think the world of C.J. Stroud. But if maybe he had a little bit of a regression this year and another team takes that division crown, I don't think that's inconceivable.
Yeah, and that Latu pick is going to be real great. The Colts massively improved their defensive line. They also got Raekwon Davis. They signed as a DT. So I'm all in on the Colts. I think they make the playoffs this year.
Is any division right now, would it shock you if someone else won it? The AFC East, Buffalo, Miami, the Jets, you can make a case for all three. I'm saying, is there not a by far and away lead dog where it would shock you if that lead dog didn't win it? AFC North, any of those four teams can win it. The AFC South, I don't think Tennessee could win it, but the Colts, Jaguars, and Texans can. The AFC West, no, even with the Chargers getting Harbaugh and you have Herbert there, the Chargers ain't winning this division this year. The NFC East, you could tell me the Eagles, you could tell me the Cowboys. The NFC North, even Detroit. Detroit should win that division, but if you tell me Green Bay wins that division, is that something I'm shocked? I'm surprised. I'm not shocked. The NFC South, just as everyone says it could be Atlanta, it could easily, like Carlos or like Stu said it could be Tampa Bay. And the NFC West, the 49ers should win that division. It'd be surprising they didn't win it. But if the Rams ended up winning that division, is that startling? I don't think so. So I think the only division that it's untouchable on who's going to win the division, and it's a lock on who's going to win the division, as long as 15 stays healthy, is the Kansas City Chiefs. So that means it's going to be an excellent football season. That's what it shapes up to be. So teams that people are sleeping on, I think Buffalo's still a Super Bowl contender. You have Carlos ended up going with the Indianapolis Colts team that I think is going to be good this year. And I never like to give the Colts any compliments just because of the fact that you had the 18-12 rivalry for all those years. And then Stu was rocking and rolling with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll take a timeout. We'll do a little college football fix next with Shane Beamer.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
We miss college football.
Milrose stands in. He throws into the end zone. He caught it. It's caught by Isaiah Bond in the corner of the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama.
We can't wait for the 2024 season.
Hands it off to Edwards, who bounce it outside. Got him at 40. Got him at 30. Donovan Edwards is in the clear. His second touchdown run of the ball game. this time from 46 yards. And Michigan has taken a 13-3 lead on the second touchdown of the night from the man who was not tripping.
And we're counting down the days to kick off.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
I said no.
Are we there yet?
What's wrong with your ears?
Here is your college football fix, only on the Zach Gelb Show.
That's what I'm talking about. 109 days away until South Carolina kicks off its season against Old Dominion. Now joining us is the head coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks, and that, of course, is Coach Shane Beamer, kind enough to join us once again on the Zach Gelb Show. Coach, appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for it, and how you been?
Been great. Always appreciate you having me on, and looking forward to it.
You know, I had some good barbecue a few weeks ago at this place in New York City called the Mason Jar, and they're big South Carolina fans, big South Carolina bar. Spencer Rattler's been there before, and they mentioned that I knew Coach Shane Beamer through what I do, and man, I got a lot of free food at that place, Coach, so thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could help. I've heard amazing things about the Mason Jar, and I literally was just talking this morning with someone that lives in New York City, and that's a Gamecock, and we were talking about the Mason Jar. So great spot, and encourage all Gamecocks to get over there on Saturdays in the fall.
Well, let's do this. Let's talk about last season first before we get to this season. We know what you've done recently, 7-6, 8-5, and last year you guys ended up going 5-7. How do you look back at last season?
Look back at obviously not our expectations, not what we wanted. By any stretch of the imagination, we did not play. We were just too inconsistent in all three phases, and we dealt with injuries. Not to make an excuse, but we lost 12 players to season-ending injuries that were significant contributors. We started 5 true freshmen. So at that point, now after the season, as the head coach, you really have to look back and ask yourself, why and how we can be better, how we can stay healthier. And are there things that we need to tweak, whether it be training, practice, whatever it might be. So proud of the way we finished. We were, at one point we were sitting there 2-6, and we won 3 out of our last 4 games and had a chance to win the last game against Clemson and get bowl eligible. And we didn't allow Clemson to score an offensive touchdown, but we still lost the game, which is really, really tough way to lose. But one of those things, we certainly grew from it. We learned from it, and there's no question we are better because of it, and excited about 2024 and beyond.
Yeah, outside of the injury part, Coach, I'm just wondering, what specifically did you learn from last season when you get hit with a little adversity, as the first 2 years things were going in a very successful direction?
I learned we got the right people in our program. It would have been very easy. We had some tough losses, and heartbreaking losses. I mean, we were up 2 scores to Florida with under 10 minutes left in the game and lost, and had Georgia down 14-3 at halftime, and we couldn't finish in the second half. Some really tough losses, but found out that we had the right kind of people. That a lot of teams, when you're sitting there 2-6, could have easily folded up, and we did, and our guys continued to fight and compete. So that was a great testament to the people in our program. And then, a lot of things that just we just, like I said, too inconsistent. We didn't run the ball well enough. We gave up too many explosives defensively, particularly early in the season. Situational football. We need to be better on third down, particularly offensively. So there's a lot of stuff that you look at and learn from, just like we did after the 2021 season when we won 7 games, and just like we did after 2022 when we won 8 games. You learn after every season and figure out how you could be better the next year, and last year into this year is no different.
Shane Beamer here with us, talking a little bit about South Carolina football as we gear up for their season 109 days away. I read a quote via the Daily Gamecock from Clayton White, your defensive coordinator. To me, the way things went last year, and for most of our defensive guys to come back, to me that says a lot about our culture, our program, the defense that we have here, and what guys really want. Everybody has options, coaches and players all have options, and we're back. So, like you said, it tells you have the right people there. Now, with getting a lot of guys coming back that maybe you thought would have left via the transfer portal or go somewhere else, what do you want to challenge your defense to kind of look like and do this upcoming season?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that quote, and Clayton White, our defensive coordinator, is exactly right. I mean, we bring our top 4 defensive tackles back. All four of those guys are going into either their 4th or 5th year in the program. We bring back our top 2 linebackers. We bring back 3 of our top 4 defensive backs. So we got a core group of guys that are returning. They're older guys that are going into their, 4th year or 5th year in our program. So my challenge would be for them to take the next step. We played pretty good defense down the stretch last season. We went through some lumps early in the season. There's no doubt about it. But, we played pretty good football. We held Kentucky in our 11th game to 14 points. In the final game against Clemson, Clemson did not score an offensive touchdown. We held them to 3 field goals defensively. And now the key is going to be, can we continue to build on that and be even better this season? We should be. We bring back those guys. We're experienced, but at every single position in the front 7, we're deeper and we're more athletic. One of our issues last year defensively is just a lack of depth at times. And this year we have so much more depth, which I'm excited about, at the linebacker position, at the defensive tackle position, and at the outside linebacker position as well. So eager to see those guys take the step and be an even better version of the defense they were at the end of the season.
Shane Beamer is my guest right now. Your quarterback, Lenore Sellers, replacing Spencer Rattler, who's off to the NFL. He's won the job. What has stood out to you with the offseason that Lenore's had?
Yeah, we named Lenoris the starting quarterback coming out of spring practice and told Lenoris and told the other quarterbacks, it's Lenoris' job to continue to earn this thing throughout the summer. And we're going to continue to compete at every position, not just quarterback. And the guy that gives us the best chance to win the football game against Old Dominion in game 1 is the guy that's going to be out there. But Lenoris is a guy that came in last season as a freshman. He played in 3 games, and we were able to redshirt him. Every game he was able to play in, he performed. And he's one of those guys, just the crazier the moment around him, the calmer and more poised he is. He's a winner that won a state championship in high school here in South Carolina. He's worked really hard in the weight room, worked really hard in the meeting room to get better as a quarterback, worked really hard on the field. And young guy, but has a big upside and has the confidence and the belief of the players around him in the locker room.
Outside of leadership, if you just talk about his play style, if someone has never seen him play, what type of player is he on the field?
Yeah, he's a big player. He's a big kid. I mean, he's 235, 240 pounds and throws the ball very well. That's what he did in high school, but he has an element of being able to run the football as well. And, just very poised and can do a lot with his arm and do a lot with his feet. And again, he's a freshman. I mean, we're very young. He's very young, and we've got to be great around him. But, all of our quarterbacks, we like their athleticism. Robbie Ashford is a transfer from Auburn. It's a similar skill set to Lenoris, close to a 230-pound-plus guy that can make plays with his arm and his feet. And Luke Doty's back for his 5th year in our program, and we brought in a transfer, brought in a freshman. So we've got a complement, our skill set in that quarterback room, that they all complement each other, and excited to watch them all continue to compete.
Let me talk a few more minutes with Shane Beamer, the head football coach at South Carolina. Some of your former players. Avery Leggett gets drafted at the end of the first round to the Carolina Panthers, who trade up to get him. Just what do you think he'll bring that organization as they try to get Bryce Young back to the player that a lot of us got to see in the SEC at Alabama?
Yeah, Xavier Leggett's he's a fantastic person, first and foremost. I mean, he'll make that Panthers organization better on and off the field. Just a great young man, but extremely hard worker, never satisfied, made himself into the player that he was this past season, and no one deserves it more. He's a guy that I think can help the Panthers in a lot of different ways. Xavier was a guy that even before the season he had this year offensively, he would have been drafted just for his ability to play special teams, to cover kicks, to return kicks. He can do all that, and now the ability to play receiver as well. He'll help the Panthers in so many ways, and excited to follow his career.
And obviously, Spencer Rattler has been under the spotlight for a bunch of years, going back to Oklahoma, and then obviously with your program the last 2 years. I was surprised that he ended up going in the 5th round. I thought the latest it would be the 4th round. But when he got that call from the Saints and you found out he was going there, just what was your reaction?
Yeah, excited for him. I agree with you. Shocked that he didn't go earlier than what he did, but it is what it is. Those things happen. But like I told Spencer, the most important thing is he got an opportunity. So he has an opportunity, and I know he'll take care of the rest. think his best football is in front of him. He's not your typical rookie quarterback. He's been through a lot. If you talk about his career at Oklahoma, his career here at South Carolina, his best football is still in front of him, though. And Spencer was a very motivated, competitive football player, but, going a little bit later in the draft and what we all anticipated will do nothing but motivate him even more, and really looking forward to the next step for him.
Yeah, when you hear, after the draft, that maybe how he was portrayed in the QB1 documentary in high school is the reason why he did fall, just what's the thought on that? Is that something you just laugh at and go, if that's the case, that's ridiculous?
Yeah, I think that's an absolute joke. If I'd be really, really, really disappointed if there were NFL teams that were basing decisions on who to draft based off a show about a potential draft pick that took place, 6-7 years ago when he was a 16-year-old in high school or whatever he was. My respect, and I have great respect, it's for the NFL teams that called me, that talked to me, that spent time around Spencer, spent time around our program, and found out what he's really about. And that is a guy that is a unbelievable young man, great family, that's a 2-time captain at the University of South Carolina. So if there's any, baggage with you, if you're not a good teammate, your teammates aren't going to elect you one of their permanent captains once, much less twice, like happened here in Columbia.
Last thing I'll ask you, Coach Shane Beamer. We know what you guys did before last season, 7-6, 8-5. Last year you guys go 5-7. Let's just say if someone called you up and they go, hey, I'm a South Carolina fan, but now I'm concerned about the program. I'm wondering why we're still moving in the right direction. Since I'm speaking to the head honcho of the program, why is this program still moving in the right direction under your leadership?
Yeah, I think we took some. We dealt with some adversity last year, and we're better for it. All you have to do is look at, like you just said, the players that return to our program for another year. You talk about what we're doing academically. Our grades just came out today. We just had the third highest grade point averages for a semester in the history of the South Carolina football program, and we've had 2 of the 5 highest GPAs in the history of the program the last 3 semesters. You look at the way that we've recruited. You look at the young talent in our program. Last season, I get it, record-wise wasn't what we wanted, but we made progress regardless of the record, and we're better this year because of it. And we got some unbelievable people in our program, and there's a strong work ethic and a strong desire in our program right now to get this program to levels that it's never been before. And we're going to win championships here, and we're well on our way.
Coach, appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much, and good luck as we get set to gear up for the season in 109 days.
Yep, appreciate it. Be here before you know it. Thanks for all you do. Take care.
You got it. There he is, Shane Beamer, the head football coach at South Carolina. Always appreciate his time joining us for a little college football fix right here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Okay, let's take a timeout. When we come on back, the NFL schedule about to be released tomorrow. And I saw some of the leaks already. The Chiefs are going to play the Bengals in Week 2. That tells me one thing that the NFL is really concerned about. We'll get to that on the other side. Update time first. Here he is, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, well, the Falcons turned plenty of heads when they drafted Michael Penix Jr. 8th overall, despite having just signed Kirk Cousins to a 4-year deal at $180 million. Now, Cousins, a guest on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, asked if he had any beef with Atlanta for drafting his heir apparent before he ever actually took a snap.
No, I don't think there can be. I don't think it's helpful. Like, we're trying to win a Super Bowl, and it's hard enough. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's hard enough. So let's all be on the same page, and let's try to go win a Super Bowl.
Well, Bills are trying to get that elusive Super Bowl as well. They give Josh Allen another weapon. Come to terms with Marquez Valdez-Scantling, a 1-year deal, $4.5 million. Pair of NBA playoff games tonight begins in New York with the Pacers and the Knicks, even at 2 games apiece. Indiana getting off the mat with back-to-back home wins, including a lopsided one in Game 4. After that, it's Game 5 in Denver, Nuggets and T-Wolves. Minnesota trying to rebound after dropping back-to-back games at home. Nuggets, of course, even things up, getting 2 road victories after dropping their first 2 at home. Baseball, 1 finals. The Phillies shut out the Mets 4-0 behind a complete Game 4 hitter from Aaron Nola with 8 Ks. And on the ice, the Panthers will look to finish off the Bruins in 5. And Boston won't have Brad Marchand tonight. He's already been ruled out. I'm Marco Belletti.
You make the call. 855-212-4227. When you want to talk to us, call 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck at a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. You know, it's crazy, by the way, how these series could just change in the postseason. Like, you look at the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. Everyone thought that was over when Minnesota walked into Denver and took 2 games, and they were up 2-0 going back to home. You know, you knew Denver wasn't going to go down without a fight, but you didn't think that Minnesota was going to drop both of the games on their own home court. So that momentum is now shifted back to the Denver Nuggets. You know, my hockey team, the Rangers, that series is over. You're up 3-0. You lose game 4, okay. I'm in the building last night. You got a Jacob Trouba shorthanded goal to put you up 1-0 in the game. You know, the game isn't over there, but you're thinking to yourself, okay, the captain, who has not played well, he gets a shorthanded goal to put you up 1-0. You got a good chance to win the game. And then the Rangers went all Alain Vigneault style, where they were just like dump and chase, and the next thing you know, they lose that game 4-1. But I'm starting to think, and maybe it's a morbid thought, like, the Rangers don't win this series. This is the worst out of the teams I root for choke job that I've seen. And let me remind people, I'm a Mets fan. The Mets were once up 7 with 17 to play. They did not win the division. They did not make the playoffs. They were up in the NL East 7 games with 17 to play back in 2007. And I'll never forget that. And I was actually, one of my good friends' bar mitzvah was the infamous Tom Glavine game. And I had one of those Watchmen kind of TVs that you bring, the portable and all that, at his bar mitzvah. And the Mets just got obliterated in that first inning, and the game was over right there. That, out of the teams I root for, Patriots, Colts, AFC Championship game 2006, that was a bad choke job by the Pats. But the Rangers being up 3-0, if they find a way to lose this series to Carolina, that's the worst choke job by a team I root for in my lifetime. I actually could predict Stu is easy. Yours is Yankees, Red Sox.
Easy.
The Yankees being up in that series 3-0, and then they choked, and Boston ended up, not only they beat you in Game 7, the Red Sox, they dragged you up and down the field for the entirety, all around the diamond for the entirety of that game. That was a slow, painful death.
Since the first inning, and at home, at Yankee Stadium, at the old Yankee Stadium, too. So that was painful.
You had a Damon grand slam, right, and then another home run?
Yeah,
right?
the Damon grand slam off Javi Vasquez was kind of that's when you knew, like, this is over. I mean, you kind of knew going in it was over. What's that?
I think he had 2 home runs in that game.
I think he did, too. Yeah.
So that was your worst moment. So Carlos you're a Bulls fan, right?
Bulls, Cubs, Giants, and Rangers.
Oh, well, the worst collapse in your lifetime is the Steve Bartman series, right?
Yes, because everyone blames Bartman. There was a Game 7.
Yeah, and they still lost.
And we got smoked that game.
Yeah.
But also, even within that Bartman game, you had Alex Gonzalez who botched it at shortstop. And like, it was what worse could happen in this game.
And let's be real. If Moises Alou doesn't point up to Steve Bartman,
he becomes nothing.
No one is really eviscerating Steve Bartman for all those years where you practically had to go into hiding, because that's just a natural reaction. Like, a ball is coming your way, it goes in the stands, and you hit it. Now, I remember there was a fan that threw a hot dog at him, and they did remove him right away, so there would have been some reaction. But I don't think it would have been with as much vitriol if you didn't have Alou pointing up, losing his mind, going berserk on the guy.
Well, the hot dog flew because Alou went nuts.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would have really batted an eye, because people reach over for a foul ball all the time in every game.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But, man, I'm not worried yet. Like, naturally, as a sport fan, you get worried when your team is up 3-0 and it's like, oh, you're on the road in game 6. Like, it feels that this is going 7. But you know what? No one, and I mean no one's going to pick the Rangers on Thursday night. I think the Rangers are going to win game 6. And that's not just me being a homer, like some dope in the YouTube chat will accuse me of. Because I'll tell you when I think my team's going to win. I'll tell you when I think they're going to lose. And trust me, I think my team's going to lose a lot. But when it comes to the Rangers, when no one thinks you're going to win and you are the President's Trophy winner, and I know, the curse, the jinx of the President Trophy. I do believe the Rangers are going to find the way to win game 6. And I think they're going to avoid game 7. But think about this. So over a year ago, I was supposed to go to Florida to visit my grandma. I've seen my grandma since, just to preface this story. But one of my best friends was getting engaged and told me, oh, my engagement party is the weekend you're supposed to be in Florida. So I had to cancel the flight. You get a credit. And if you don't use the credit within a year, you lose it. So 2 months ago, I get that notification, you're about to lose your credit. So this was the weekend that worked for me to go visit some family. Because I only visit my grandma, my aunt, my uncle, and all that. So last week when the Rangers go up 3-0, because I didn't know at the time when I scheduled this what the schedule is going to be. My flight is Thursday evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to avoid having to watch the game on the airplane. But now, the game 6 is going to be Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So I'm going to leave the show at 6. I'm going to JFK. So I'll quickly get there by 7, watch the first period and a half, then have to board the plane. And thankfully, I'm flying. Well, I say that now. Maybe there'll be some delays. I would not have a problem if I have a little delay. All right, so I can watch the whole game at the airport. But I'll be able to watch the game on the plane. I can't ever recall watching a game on the plane where I have skin in the game. Like, I had to watch that when I was coming back from Nebraska, when I went to the Nebraska-Michigan game this year. That Sunday, I had to watch that Jet-Chief game, that Sunday night game on the plane. But I didn't care who actually won the game. So that's going to be an interesting experience. And I just hope, and I don't think it will line up this way, that the game is over by the time that I land. Because how terrible is that when you're having to land and the TV starts to go out, if that game is still unknown who's going to be winning? So I had a fun time at the Ranger game last night until the third period. So I got to the game. I went to one luxury box, then went down to my seats, and then I went to another luxury box for the second and third period. Let's just say I took advantage of the whiskey that was in the luxury box.
Attaboy.
So I had a few whiskey gingers last night. Sources say I can't confirm nor deny. I also can't confirm nor deny when walking out of Madison Square Garden, there may have been a large drunk fellow by the name of Zach Gelb that saw Danny Hurley out of the corner of his eye. Now, I see Danny Hurley, most sane, sober people would just be like, oh, yeah, coach, how you doing? Like, go Huskies, something like that. Well, in my drunk escapade out of the Garden, I thought it was an appropriate thing to yell at Danny Hurley and say, hey, coach, those Rangers could have used that Husky toughness tonight. And not only that, because I guess he chuckled at me yelling at him, which I wonder in his mind, did he just think, man, who is this drunk bozo? Or he thought I was funny. And then I proceeded to say, your father would have coached that team to victory tonight. Get his ass behind the bench for Bob Hurley Sr. And then he went into some car, and then I went down into the train station to get on the subway to take the one train back to my New York City apartment. So next time we get Danny Hurley on the show, I have to ask him if he remembered that moment or if he was just trying to give a sympathy chuckle and just scurry his way away from the large whiskey drunk fella that was walking out of Madison Square Garden last night, which I can't confirm nor deny may or may not have been me. So that was my interaction or maybe not interaction with Danny Hurley last night.
I'm sure he's had a lot more worse things thrown at his direction. That's pretty tame.
Well, it wasn't anything bad. I was just hyping up his program. And I was just marveling at his program's toughness and how they know how to close out games and win back-to-back championships. I would just like my team to win one sticking championship. It would be nice if they could win a championship in my lifetime, but we'll see if they can find a way to close this thing out. So I hope so in Game 6. If not, Delta 9 Brian is going to have a lot of fun at my expense with his Hurricanes. And this would be then 3 straight years because they're up 2-0 against Tampa, choked. They were up 2-0 last year against Jersey, choke. If you go up 3-0 against the Hurricanes, when you have a team that is good enough, I still think Florida is the best team in hockey, but you have a team that's more than good enough and capable of winning the Cup. This, like the Tampa Bay one, I could swallow it because the fact that it was a breakout year. Last year, painful, but blowing a 2-0 lead, it's not as if that's like the craziest thing to happen. Up 3-0 and having, if they can't win, 2 chances to close it out at home, and they blew the one last night, they squandered that away. Yeah, that would be a tough pill to swallow. Would definitely be. And by the way, the NFL, their schedule's coming out tomorrow. And the Chiefs and Bengals are scheduled to play in week 2. So you get Chiefs-Ravens to open up the season. And then you get Chiefs-Bengals in week 2. Usually those games are later on in the season, Chiefs-Bengals. And the NFL got burned by it last year because Joe Burrow got hurt. And 4 years in through Joe Burrow's career, 2 years he's been healthy. He's been to an AFC championship game and a Super Bowl. And the other 2 years, unfortunately, he got hurt and he's had to have season-ending surgery. I think that's the NFL saying, we got the 2 best quarterbacks in football, Burrow and Mahomes. Let's not run the risk that one of them gets hurt. And I think that's a little concern that everyone has with the Cincinnati Bengals and the NFL schedule makers as well. Joe Burrow's great, but can he continuously be there at the end of the season? Because when he's there at the end of the season, he's cool Joe, he's dominant, he's great. He took the Bengals to 2 AFC championship games and a Super Bowl. But that's been a concern that all of us have had. Will he continue to find a way to be healthy, or will the continuation occur where every other year it seems like he's out with the season-ending injury? And the NFL is like, yeah, we're not going to take that risk at all. Let's throw that matchup in second week of the season. But what a start for the Chiefs. You get the Ravens, then followed up by the Bengals. And no one's going to freak out even if the Chiefs start off 0-2 or even if they start off 1-1. But the NFL's like, you want to three-peat this year? We're going to make it tough for you right out of the gate. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a timeout. Jared Greenberg's going to join us, talk some NBA playoffs coming up 25 minutes from now. When we return, though, we're going to do a little draft here in honor of Jared Goff getting the long-term deal done with the Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell being one of the better coaches in the NFL these days. Who's the best head coach QB duo? We'll make 4 selections each. We'll go around the room. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, away we go. Hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Jared Greenberg, NBA on TNT. He's going to stop by 20 minutes from now. So Jared Goff paid to be a franchise quarterback. Dan Campbell, we know, is a top 10 coach in the NFL right now. Let's do a little draft here. We will do 4 selections each. We will make this a snake draft. Best head coach QB duos in the NFL. So, Carlos, since you're a visitor, I will maybe let you go first. Heads or tails, my friend? This is between Carlos and Stu. Heads or tails?
Tails never fails.
All right. Well, sometimes it fails, 50%. So we flip up the coin.
50% of the time, it works 100% of the time.
Good job. It's tails. You want to be 1, 2, or 3?
I'll take 1.
Okay. You will go 1. Stu, thinking of a number, 1 or 2?
2.
1.
Darn.
So I will go 3rd, and Stu will go 2nd. So, best head coach QB draft duos, Mr. Ortiz. Ooh. I like that, Carlos Ortiz. What do you got?
Go right to the podium, ran up like the Bears. I've been thinking about this for almost 2 hours.
Yeah, you don't really need to think about it.
Give me Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
Shocked.
Slam dunk, number 1 head coach quarterback duo in the NFL.
So Mahomes, Reid off the board. The start of 4 selections each. Stu, your selection is... Come on, Carlos. Where's the sounder? Carlos comes to me before the segment. He goes, I got the NFL draft sounder. I'll play it in between picks. So, he was asleep at the wheel. You could run for office. or maybe run us. Stu, what do you got?
I will go with the guy who I think is the second best head coach in the league and a quarterback who is near the top, not as good as Mahomes. I'll go with Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh.
Okay, that's a good one. Carlos, give me the sounder for my first pick. I will go... Ooh, extra music. For my first pick, I will take Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. So now I have to snake around here. Mahomes, Reid to Carlos, best QB coach duos. Stu takes Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. And I go Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. For my next pick, man. See, here's the tough part. There's a lot of people that have elite quarterbacks and then good coaches. And then they're elite coaches and good quarterbacks. And it's how do you differentiate which one of those are the best?
Yeah, that's the problem I had trying to rank my my power rankings here.
I'm gonna go quarterback wins the day. I will take Josh Allen with Sean McDermott. McDermott is a good coach.
Not even on my list.
Really?
McDermott is an absolute no-go for me.
Wait. He's a good coach, though.
I understand he's a good coach, but with that whole 9/11 thing that he did,
that was very stupid.
Went off my list. Yeah. Bozo.
I did shred him for those comments. But he's still a good coach, and Josh Allen is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. So that's where I go on that one. We will now go back to Stu.
So kind of sticking with your theme of great quarterback and a coach who I think is good. Not a great head coach, but a good head coach. I will go Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor.
Wow. Okay. So that was not... They were in my honorable mention. I thought that would be like a 3rd round kind of category. There is a duo that I thought that there was a good chance when this comes back around that they would not be available. I wonder if we're not thinking about this duo, though, because Stu did not get him. Carlos, you get 2 picks. Go ahead.
All right, so all of those are very obvious picks to me, with the exception of McDermott. So this is where it starts to get a little tough for me because what you said, do I value the coach or the quarterback more?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do a bit of a combo here. In this one, I value the coach more. I'm going to take Shanahan and Brock Purdy.
That was the one that I thought would definitely not be there when we came back
That's
around.
my pick because I think Shanahan, you put any quarterback with him, you'll find success. So I'll take Shanahan and Purdy. And then back-to-back, I think this one's a little bit more even out. He got paid. I love the team. Give me Dan Campbell and Jared Goff as my next pick.
Okay. So that is it for Carlos with a K, right? Is that your last selection?
No, I got one more. You have 4 picks each, right? So it's got to snake back around.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I started to put your picks under Stu's picks, and then there was 4 there. So let me just get this correct. You have Mahomes and Reid.
Yep.
Then you have Shanahan and Purdy.
Yep.
Dan Campbell. Stu has Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, and Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor. Stu, who's your third pick?
Okay, so I will go with, I guess here I'm kind of going to, I guess both are very good, right? Like neither the quarterback is a star, at least yet, and nor is the coach. But I really like what's happening in Green Bay with Jordan Love and LaFleur. So I'm going to go with them as my next pick.
Alrighty. I will then take, it's only 1 year, but the 1 year was sensational. C.J. Stroud, who I think is the 5th best quarterback in football right now, and DeMeco Ryans.
That's the one I was between.
Great pick.
Now this gets tricky because you get into the conversations of like Love and LaFleur off the board. They were under consideration. Do you go with the Dak Prescott and a Mike McCarthy? Do you take a Jalen Hurts and a Nick Sirianni? Do you go maybe Tua Tagovailoa and Mike McDaniel? You go through these scenarios. Doug Peterson did win a Super Bowl, but Trevor Lawrence hasn't been that yet. I'm listing all the ones that I'm not picking, by the way, just to get those out of the way. I'm going to go with my final pick for the best quarterback, best head coach duo. This quarterback needs to be better, but he has all the potential in the world. And we know what this coach is capable of. I'm taking Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert.
I knew it.
Stu's over here complaining like this is a real fantasy draft for the last 60 seconds. Zach's going to do it. I know it. He's going to take my picks.
So my 4 picks, Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen, Sean McDermott, C.J. Stroud, DeMeco Ryans. Great value right there on C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans, if I say so myself. And then Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. Stu so far, Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur. This is the tricky season. Where do you go with your 4th and final pick, Stu?
Yeah, so there are definitely a few candidates here. None that I love, but I do like Tua and McDaniel. I think Tua is obviously flawed. He has to stay healthy. He has to prove that he could do it in playoff time in the cold weather. But I like McDaniel a lot, so
because you look like him?
Yeah, that is part of it. That is definitely part of it. But I do like him as a coach. I think he's a good offensive mind. So I'll go to a McDaniel here.
Wow. The disrespect to the NFC East. The Cowboys and the Eagles right there. Because I would say Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott are better than Tua. And McDaniel's a good coach. You know, Sirianni, He's
Almost
made the
got fired.
playoffs 3 times. One of the worst collapses you'll ever see, going 10-1, only winning 1 game down the stretch. And then McCarthy, he has won a Super Bowl and made the Cowboys a playoff team 3 straight years in a row, but then they struggled to get out of the first or second round of the playoffs. So I thought Stu was maybe going to go a little Eagles or Cowboys there, but not so much. So, Carlos, what are you going to do here for the final selection?
Yeah, I'm going to keep the disrespect for the NFC East going. I am not going anywhere near
What are you going to take, Brian Dable and Daniel Jones?
I'll take Brian Dable and Drew Lock before I take Daniel Jones. No, my last pick, I'll go a little bit off the beaten path here. Give me a 2-time NFL Coach of the Year in Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun Watson.
Ooh.
I'm going to go heavy coach value here. I don't know what Watson's going to be, but that'll round out my pick selection here.
Yeah, I think in this exercise, Eagles got disrespected a little bit. Cowboys, even I will say, got disrespected a little bit. Can I just throw one more out there? If we're going to put Stefanski and Watson on the list, and Stefanski deserves to be on the list, 2-time Coach of the Year, Deshaun Watson, it's based off maybe getting back to form. If we're going to do that, getting back to form, what about in Pittsburgh? Tomlin and Russ.
I thought about it.
You thought about it?
I did.
I didn't.
I didn't think about it until Carlos said Stefanski and Watson. That was the only time I thought about it. So here are the results. Carlos did go first. He had Mahomes and Reed. Stu followed it up. Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh. I then had a back-to-back opportunity. I did go with Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen, Sean McDermott. Stu then goes with Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor. Carlos then had 2 picks, Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy, Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. Stu then goes Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur. I then ended it up with C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans. We came back. Stu goes with Tua and Mike McDaniel. And then Carlos with the K goes Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun Watson in the head coach QB draft duo. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. We were talking about sleeper teams earlier for this upcoming season in the NFL. Dave in Chicago wants to grab a phone line. He's on the Zach Gelb Show. Dave, what do you got cooking?
Yeah, I wanted to say you couldn't be more correct about Buffalo's a sleeper team, despite Sean McDermott. It's funny, you guys were just doing the quarterback coach duos because, people don't realize how important that is. Well, you obviously would know because you had the combo of Brady, Belichick.
Yeah.
Because, people say, oh, Brady's so great. Put Brady on, the Cleveland when they were an expansion team, he would have no Super Bowl. So, that makes a big difference. But anyway, because I think Josh Allen is actually the best quarterback in football. If I had a team...
You think he's better than Mahomes?
I put Mahomes number 2 because the difference, Mahomes has got Reed, just like what we were talking about. He's got Reed, he's got Spagnuolo. Think about Buffalo. All these games that they're known for, 13 seconds game, the Hail Murray game, you got last year 12 men on the field after a missed field goal, which ended up costing them a game. What's all of those have in common? Josh Allen wasn't on the field. Sean McDermott cannot close a game. He's horrible. And even last year, the Chiefs, for the most part, Chiefs had always been such a great offensive team. Last year, they won because of their defense. The offense was kind of lax a little bit last year, but Spagnuolo's defense was, out of this world. And so...
Well, you've had number one defenses before in Buffalo.
What's that?
You've had number one defenses before in Buffalo.
Yeah, but McDermott's defenses just cannot close a game. Just like in the playoffs.
No, you're not wrong on that.
Against Kansas City, as I said, their offense wasn't that great last year, but yet you get them in the playoffs, they held the Chiefs. They punted once in the entire game. You can't do that when a team is struggling offensively. Their defense it's all McDermott.
Well, that's the tricky part, Dave, because we could all acknowledge, and thanks for the phone call, McDermott's a good coach. Now, some people hear that and be like, what is Gelb talking about? Once again, remember, I'm very strict in differentiating bad, average, good, very good, and great. There's different degrees to this. McDermott is a good coach. But just because you're a good coach doesn't mean you win. Now, Allen is an elite quarterback. And that's a tricky part to get elite coach and elite quarterback. Now, I can't sit there, and I appreciate Dave's phone call. I can't say Mahomes isn't the best quarterback in football. And let's just remind everybody, I know now we all look at Andy Reid as the greatest coach of all time. How many Super Bowls? I know he went to a bunch of NFC championship games in the Super Bowl in Philly. But how many Super Bowls did Andy Reid have before the great Patrick Mahomes? Big goose egg. 0. So the idea that Mahomes is only winning, or the reason why they win is just because he has Spagnuolo and he has Reid, that's not necessarily fair, to be clear on that front. I don't think that was exactly his point. But Kansas City did lose Tyreek Hill, and they ended up winning back-to-back Super Bowls. So that shows you just how great Mahomes is. Allen, to me, he enters this season as the third best quarterback in football. 1 is Mahomes, 2 is Burrow, 3 is Josh Allen, 4 probably Lamar Jackson, and then 5 C.J. Stroud. Those, to me, with Rodgers right there, just don't know what Rodgers could be coming off the Achilles. Those, to me, are your 5 or 6 best quarterbacks in football entering the season. But you got a lot of guys that were close to being top 5 or in the top 5 that now it becomes big prove-it years on what they're going to be able to do. Like Jalen Hurts is one of those guys. And we'll see what Dak Prescott could do as well. But the Bills, it's not crazy to say that, if they made a change this offseason to bring a new coach, that because McDermott built them up, just because you have someone build up your house doesn't mean that they necessarily do the roofing for your house. And that the Bills they just got to get their roofing done, and that ends up being a Lombardi trophy. Like, they've been right there. And we've seen that before. Guys that change a franchise, which McDermott did, don't always get to see the actual glory days of winning a championship with that franchise. But remember how bad they were to start in the middle of the year? It looked like they were missed the playoffs. Then they made the playoffs. They were one of the hottest teams in the NFL. And they just couldn't close out that game. Allen and Diggs just couldn't get that connection, and they got close, but yet so far once again. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll go around the NBA world with Jared Greenberg, great sideline reporter for NBA on TNT next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Infinity Sports Network. It is the Zach Gelb Show. NBA on TNT sideline reporter Jared Greenberg is here with us as we'll chat about all the happenings of the second round of the NBA postseason. Jared, thanks so much for joining us today. How you been, my man?
Good, Zach. What's going on?
Nothing much. Just some craziness last night in the association. Obviously, you were a part of it. I'll start you off with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Man, oh man, how do you put that into perspective, what he was able to do last night? Because that was really something special.
Not only, what he was able to do in terms of bringing OKC back, but how he did it, utilizing the mid-range, not scoring from three, not scoring by dunks or layups. Everything was from the mid-range and just carving up the defense by Dallas, who absolutely just melted and crumbled in that situation when they had an opportunity to take a commanding 3-1 series lead. I think, people, this is obviously the time of the year, Zach, when people who are sports fans, but not necessarily hardcore NBA fans, are tuning in for the first time to the league. I hope people are starting to appreciate what a talent and what a budding superstar Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is, and how good he's going to be for a long time in this league.
Yeah, it felt like last night was the night nationally where people start to put some respect on the Thunder's name. Like, I thought SGA should have won the MVP, either him or Jalen Brunson. But even going into this postseason, the Thunder were the 1 seed, and it didn't seem like they were getting the respect nationally that usually a number 1 seed would get.
Yeah, but I also get some of that because, in pro sports, it's not about votes. It's not about seeding. It's about winning. Right, and going out and prove yourself. And I think, we've learned over time in the NBA, very seldom does a team who's there for the first time win it all. So I think people poked holes in what the Thunder have, what the Thunder are, and that is their youth, their experience, and not a whole lot of size. And what we're seeing so far in this postseason, in this series against Dallas, is that at times their youth has gotten the best out of them, but more particularly, when they get beat on the glass, they usually lose. So last night they were able to overcome all of that, and they tied the series up at 2. Now it's a best of 3. Now it's a best of 3 with the Thunder having 2 games on their home court.
Yeah, and the momentum of this NBA postseason, it's been a funny thing, not just in this series. Like, as you're talking about, it looks like we were on the verge of seeing Dallas go up 3-1, and everyone think, okay, that series is over, and now the Thunder get that victory, and it feels like momentum has gone right back to their favor. I've got to a point, and I know people love when we make predictions. Who the heck knows what's going to happen between the Thunder and the Mavericks, and then also the Nuggets and the Timberwolves, too?
Yeah, no, I agree. The Nuggets and Timberwolves really strange. Just that the road team has won all 4 games, right? Like that's wild. And I think, we get consumed in the moment, which is good. We get captivated by the excitement and the here and now of what happens. But I think we sometimes have to pump the brakes and recognize that a series is not won in 1 game, and even in 2 games, like we've seen in that Nuggets Timberwolves series. I think, momentum does not necessarily always carry over from game to game. And just because we saw something happen in 1 game doesn't mean we can make a referendum on who a team is for their entire season.
Jared Greenberg here with us. Let me hit up the other game from last night, Celtics and Cavaliers. I think the biggest takeaway from this game was LeBron James was courtside in Cleveland. I don't think that means LeBron's going to be going back with the Cavs for a 3rd stint. But
you don't?
No. There's the hot take of the day, Jared Greenberg. But the future of LeBron is very compelling. I think it's best for his career if he leaves L.A., but I don't think that's going to happen. Whether it's Borrego or Redick or Sam Cassell, they'll get a new coach. And in all likelihood, LeBron will re-sign with that organization, right?
Yeah, I just think it makes too much sense for LeBron to stay with the Lakers. But again, every time we think we know what's happening in the NBA, it catches us by surprise. There's some trick up someone's sleeve. But I'm with you. I think LeBron is staying with the Lakers, and I think they're going to have to make some tough decisions moving forward, though.
Yeah, you read maybe they trade for a Donovan Mitchell, they trade for Trae Young. Is there one name that pops out to you that you say, okay, for the Lakers try to get back in that championship contending mode, they need to add this player to team up with LeBron and Anthony Davis?
Yeah, I think both of those players would help. I don't know if either one of them stamps them as the Western Conference frontrunner, but I think the biggest thing about all of this in today's landscape of the way roster construction works in the NBA, it's going to be incredibly difficult to land another superstar without giving one up. It's really hard to imagine that the Lakers, as currently constructed, have what it will take, have what will be found attractive by Atlanta or Cleveland or anybody else, New Orleans, who's looking up to give up stars. There's going to be plenty of teams looking to make deals to get out from underneath salary this summer. And then there's the cases of, like you're mentioning in Cleveland, if Donovan Mitchell doesn't sign an extension, they have to trade him, it feels like. There's going to be plenty of names. Those are just the first two names that we're going to hear rumbling. There's going to be a lot more that come about. But the question for the Lakers is, what do they have that other teams want to give? Just because it's the Lakers doesn't mean teams want to make a deal with them just because, it's the Lakers and we can help them out. That's not the way it works.
By the way, we talk about the future of the Lakers. How about the future of the Suns? Coach Bud Budenholzer coming on in. We know that Durant and you have Bradley Beal and you got Devin Booker still there, all there for now. That team doesn't really have much of a bench, though. This is a team that you start to think legacy of Durant, and we all know he's top 15, top 20 player of all time, the 2 championships of the Warriors, but he left Golden State to go win a championship, right, on his own. If he doesn't get that, what do you think the legacy will be of Kevin Durant?
Strange, right? It's just he's a complex and confusing individual. I'm with you. I think he's knocking on the door of a top 10 player of all time. And the what ifs, if he doesn't get injured, if he doesn't have the foot injuries early in his career, if he doesn't have the Achilles injury with the Warriors, are we talking about a top 5 player of all time? Are we talking about a guy who had a realistic shot, I think, of overcoming Kareem and LeBron for the scoring title all time in the league? That's the pace he was on. So on the court, yeah, he's one of the all-time greats. He's a special individual, but it just has not gone well for him. Obviously, since leaving Golden State, I wouldn't count out his career saying it's done. I think he's got some special things still to do. But man, they're going to have to do some, as you mentioned, some real convincing of individuals that it's worth coming to Phoenix on a minimum deal to help them win a championship.
Talking to Jared Greenberg, what do you expect out of the Knicks tonight? I know that they've been decimated with injuries. This series is all tied up at 2. Does New York have any gas left in the tank, in your opinion?
I do. Yeah. Again, I'm not just going to take that one game where they got beat down the other day and say that the series is over. I just don't see this team going out that way. Now, do they win the series? I don't know. I mean, I think the Knicks still ultimately win the series, but I don't know. I think that in some weird, twisted way, and that's kind of how my mind works, Zach, I think what happened the other day could be a good thing for the Knicks. It made Tibbs pull the guys out of the lineup early, got them some extra rest. It was an afternoon game. You build that into how much added downtime off their feet that these guys got, and maybe that was a wake up call the way they got beat up the other night. I think the Knicks are going to be, listen, they are, you said, decimated, right? And we're seeing how important OG Anunoby is. When he's in the lineup, the Knicks win. When he's not in the lineup, the Knicks lose. And he's not going to play. But I still think that the combination of what the Knicks have, starting with Jalen Brunson, who, by the way, I would watch this foot injury really, really closely. I'm very, very curious about how serious this is. But somehow, some way, this dude continues just to be able to overcome it. And I don't see him going out the way they did the other day. I don't think that continues.
Yeah, for game 2, I call them now Greenberg seats with your great location. I was a row behind the bench, so I had a good vantage point of it. It was so bizarre because at first I thought it was a hand injury. Then I thought, okay, maybe he just got hit in the cojones. And then it comes out that it was a foot injury. Right. That had to be pretty damn bad if he missed basically an entire quarter.
No question. Yeah, it was weird. And I have to think, and again, I don't know anything. I'm not reporting anything. I just have to wonder if it was just a coincidence that injury we saw him endure at that point that you're talking about, where he had his hand covering up his groin, so you didn't know if it was a hand or a groin injury. I wonder if it happened somewhere else with the foot. I don't know. It's just, I'm wondering, because it's become such an injury that it's clearly hampering him. When did it happen? How did it happen? And how serious is it?
If people say that Tom Thibodeau needs to change and that's why all these injuries are occurring because of his tough coaching style, how do you respond to that?
I think it's two separate conversations. I think that there are times that Tom Thibodeau does need to take his foot off the pedal a little bit. But I will also say, and I'll be consistent with this, Zach, in this era of load management where we are putting these guys in bubble wrap and coddling them throughout the course of the regular season and then expect just to rip off the Band-Aid and say, okay, after playing for 6 months and not really trying all that hard and not exposing you to high pressure, high intensity situations, now we're just going to throw you into the fire, expect you to be able to play 40 minutes at what guys described to me as a playoff game equaling 3 or 4 regular season games in terms of the intensity. It just doesn't work that way. I think the Knicks are where they are right now because of Tom Thibodeau, because of his style, and because of the way he's treated this roster, which, by the way, you take Jalen Brunson out of the lineup, you take Josh Hart out of the lineup, and you play them 3 or 5 or 10 minutes less a game. Who are you putting on the court that's putting up those type of numbers that have the Knicks in this position that they are today?
I don't think you could have said it any better. Like, there's a time to have a Tom Thibodeau conversation off of this series. It's not one of them because, right, we had to have the commissioner put in a rule. You have to play 65 games to win these awards. So it's like we all praise that, and then the next thing it's, Tom Thibodeau, because they've had 7,000 injuries. This is why when this guy's team is over-exceeding and he's still not getting any praise nationally. The Thibodeau hate to me is just bizarre from people.
No question. And listen, we're dealing with, remember, Julius Randle's out with a shoulder injury. That was a freak injury that happened. It had nothing to do with the amount of minutes. Mitchell Robinson is dealing with an ankle injury that he's dealt with all season long, right? Like these are not now listen, a hamstring injury you could maybe poke holes in, but I would also say OG Anunoby, his entire career starting back in Indiana, he's dealt with injuries. He's a dude who gets injured a lot, and that's not an indictment on him. It's just a fact. And I just think, like, we continue to think without any scientific or medical data that it's the right way to coddle these guys and let professional athletes who are making these exorbitant contracts, good for them, they deserve the money, the money's out there, but the more we pay them, the less we expect of them. And now what we're seeing is injuries are happening to teams and guys, whether they play a lot or they don't play a lot in the regular season, right? Like, look at Kawhi Leonard. He played a lot of games this year, but didn't play a ton of minutes. He still gets hurt, right? You see Zion Williamson still got hurt. Injuries are going to happen. It's part of professional sports.
Butler.
Right, Jimmy Butler, absolutely. The list goes on and on. We can continue on. Giannis, Dame Lillard, all these guys. But to me, what I think, and the commissioners alluded to this, and sometimes he's backed off of it a little bit. I wish the league would be a little bit more stringent on this, is the fact that there is no data that shows that guys are better in the playoffs or guys are better later in their careers because we reduce their minutes and we reduce the load they get during the regular season. There is no piece of data out there that supports that as a way to preserve guys, or more importantly, to get the best out of them when the postseason rolls around.
Well said. He's Jared Greenberg, NBA on TNT. Do you have a guest tonight? Does Denver find a way to take care of business, or does this continue to be a road party between Minnesota and Denver?
I think it's Denver. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if Minnesota wins it, and we're really seeing a changing of a guard flip on a dime like we've never seen it before with the amount of superstars and the amount of high-profile guys who are out of the playoffs and the new generation coming in. But with Anthony Edwards, particularly Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Brunson to a certain extent. But I got to tell you, like, I think as Rudy T once said, don't underestimate the heart of a champion. I think people have underappreciated this Denver team for a long time. And I think they got counted out. And tonight, when Jokic receives his championship trophy at Ball Arena in front of that sold out crowd, I think that place is going to be absolutely on fire. And I think Denver wins.
NBA on TNT's very own Jared Greenberg. Jared, appreciate the time as always. Thank you.
Anytime, Zach. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. There he is, Jared Greenberg. Always enjoyed talking hoops with him this time of the year. We will end the show out in style next as we'll update some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We call that segment the News Brief. Let's get the latest update first, though, from Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, Aaron Rodgers' first season lasted a grand total of 4 plays on Monday Night Football. We'll see what this year brings. And the Jets will once again open up on a Monday night. This time it'll be on the road for the 49ers on September 9th. Meanwhile, Kirk Cousins spoke on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast about the Falcons drafting Michael Penix Jr. as his heir apparent before his first game. And Cousins seems to be taking it in stride.
This isn't like a foreign concept. There's an awareness that this is the NFL. You know, anything can happen. You know, do kind of what I've always done as a player and let the chips fall where they may.
Bills trying to bring in some weapons for Josh Allen. Come to terms with veteran Marquez Valdez-Scantling. That a 1-year deal, $4.5 million. Caitlin Clark has taken the world by storm. College basketball's all-time leading scorer makes her WNBA debut tonight as the Fever hit the road for the Sun.
This is what you kind of worked for and dreamed of, and now you get to put your jersey on for like the first real time and go out there and play. So I think more than anything, just soak in the moment. You know, we get to play on the biggest stage. There's going to be a lot of people there. It's going to be loud, but you only play your first WNBA game once. So I think just enjoy it. And
couple of NBA playoff games tonight. You got the Pacers and Knicks in New York. Series is even at 2, and the Nuggets and T-Wolves in Denver. That series also not at 2 as well. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. We're the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. It's time to update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We call this segment the News Brief.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Let's hear Windy Brian Windhorst. He was on Get Up earlier this morning on what LeBron James was doing at the Cavs game last night, and what does it mean?
I have been told the reason LeBron was in Cleveland was because he and Savannah were there for Mother's Day, seeing their mothers. It coincided with it being a day later, and he went. And Rich Paul, who was also at the game, represents several Cavaliers, called the Lakers and said, just so you know, LeBron is going to be coming to the game tonight, so that they weren't surprised. Having said that, obviously, since the end of the season, LeBron has sent several, sort of interesting messages. Non-comment on the Lakers going forward, comments on podcasts and on social media about he doesn't know what to do. On draft night, they can trade 3 first-round picks. At the trade deadline, as everybody knows, they did nothing, and LeBron wasn't happy about it. So this little maneuvers to just put a little bit of doubt, I think, is mostly a bit of a thing for the Lakers. Just to remind the Lakers, by the way, just so you know, I'm still out here.
What a waste of 45 seconds of audio from Brian Windhorst. He could have just simply said, LeBron seeking attention. That's why he went to the game last night. Moving on. Let's go to Adrian Wojnarowski. He was also on to ESPN on what makes Bronny James attractive as a prospect.
Bronny James is going to have an impact for organizations, not just on the basketball side, but potentially on the business side. He's almost assuredly going to start in the G League. He will pack G League arenas, merchandising. All of those make him an attractive player, whether it's late first round or second round. So I think certainly his opportunity to play in the NBA is there.
So he tested really well the other day, especially in the shooting department, which people were not expecting, especially from 3. Let's just also be I'm not saying Bronny James can't be good, but the idea that LeBron may be joining your team if you draft him definitely does enhance his draft stock. Let's go to Luka Doncic. He's not worried after the Game 4 loss. It looked like the Mavericks were going to go up 3-1 on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now this is 2-2 going back to OKC.
No concern. We just got to be ready. We got to play hard like we did today. I think we played really hard. Big energy today. But like I said, some details, cost us the game, and we just got to be ready again. And obviously, it's going to be hard on the road, but we've done it before. We can do it again.
Make your damn free throws. That's what I would say. And Jason Kidd on the Mavericks free throw issues.
These are pros. They're not machines. They practice their free throws. They practice putting on their uniform. And so it's just about being able to step up. You're going to make some, you're going to miss some. No one's ever, shot 100% from the free throw line.
Yeah, but Jason Kidd, who used to blow kisses at the basket before making his free throws, Luka Doncic in that spot, he can't miss that free throw. With a chance to tie the game and you split, that's just unacceptable. Here is Tim Legler-Legs on Get Up on ESPN. He faults Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving for Dallas's loss last night.
Where are their two best offensive players when you have to have it? I wouldn't say Luka's been horrible the entire postseason. Even the nights he hasn't shot well, he has controlled games to the extent that he's the best player on the floor. But he's only had one game in this entire run in both series so far where it looked like Luka at his best. That was Game 5 of the Clippers series when he had to have it in a 2-2 situation. Look, Kyrie and Luka last night combined for as many field goals as Lou Dort and Chet Holmgren. Mm-hmm. That's not supposed to happen. And late, they just weren't good. They could not get a big bucket when they had to. Look, give Shai Gilgeous-Alexander all the credit in the world for all those big, tough, difficult jump shots that he made. But here's the thing. Dallas defended at a championship level. They out-rebounded them. They did so many things right in this game, but their two best offensive players came up as small as you possibly can on a night when you just had to have a couple of shots made in the last 6 minutes of the game. Either way, and they win that game and they take control.
He's 100% right. Luka and Kyrie no-show down the stretch in that game last night. Let's go to Jay Wright inside the NBA. You got Pacers and Knicks, Game 5 tonight at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. Jay Wright had a lot of praise for his former player in Jalen Brunson.
I thought that situation in Dallas, like with a real talented player like Luka Doncic, I thought he'd be a great leader of the team. Luka, the leading scorer. But when he chose to go to New York, it showed me that he wanted to be the guy. He loves being a leader. He loves having everything on his shoulders. And it has surprised me a little bit that he's been able to do it with this much effectiveness right away. I mean, he's one of the top scorers in the playoffs. It's unbelievable he's doing it in playoff time.
We go from Jay Wright to Caitlin Clark. This is Caitlin Clark in our first WNBA game tonight.
I'm really excited. I think, preseason games, you try to be as competitive as possible, but you're still trying to figure it out, try different lineups. So I feel now like getting out there for the first time is really exciting, and it'll be super special. This is what you've kind of worked for and dreamed of, and now you get to put your jersey on for the first real time and go out there and play. So I think more than anything, just soak in the moment. We get to play on the biggest stage. There's going to be a lot of people there. It's going to be loud, but you only play your first WNBA game once. So I think just enjoy it.
This is the first year the women's tournament was more exciting than the men's tournament in college basketball. And not only that, it was not just Caitlin Clark. Now, Caitlin Clark is the straw that stirs the drink. She makes you want to watch when you maybe would not have watched. But then you had Juju Watkins at USC. You had Paige Beckers at UConn. Angel Reese and Kim Mulkey at LSU. You go on and on and on. Camila Cardosa and Dawn Staley at South Carolina. And now a lot of these ladies are going to the NBA at the same time. Not Watkins, not Beckers, but everybody else that I just mentioned. So Caitlin Clark is the female version of Steph Curry, and that makes you want to watch the sport. And I do think there will be added momentum to the WNBA, and you've already seen it with some of the attendance for the preseason games. Let's go to Kirk Cousins. He was on Bussin' with the Boys on Barstool. He opens up on the Falcons drafting Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, I think you're reminded again that there are things you control, and there's a lot of things you don't control. And so let's deal in reality, and recognize that fact, and then be a steward, not an owner. So I just believe that I got to steward what comes my way and control what I can control, which is what a steward does. But a steward doesn't worry about that which they can't control.
Yeah. So it's fair to say Kirk Cousins, the Falcons, there's no beef involved.
No, and I don't think there can be. I don't think it's helpful. We're trying to win a Super Bowl, and it's hard enough. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's hard enough. So let's all be on the same page, and let's try to go win a Super Bowl.
It only gets weird whenever they say to Kirk Cousins, hey, you're hitting the bench. I don't think that will happen this year, but is it out of the realm of possibilities? I think it's a slim chance, but I would not say No, it's not. Let's go to Raheem Morris on the dynamic between Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix Jr. in his locker room.
I think the oldness really belongs to Michael when it comes to those things. Kirk's trying to win a Super Bowl, right? Kirk is in full-blown preparation mode to set the Atlanta Falcons up for the best success that they can possibly have. And I think you get no better person to sit behind than a Kirk Cousins type of guy. And obviously, they're probably better, arguably, on other people's teams, but I'm talking about the one on our team, right? And I just think it's a great experience for Michael. And I think he'll learn a lot from watching him move in silence with his guys. And he'll learn on the run, because really it's the empathy and the humility of Michael that's going to come out more when it comes to learning those type of things. And I think that's the most important part of it all. Like everybody wants to make Kurt, have to tell him what to do, but really he's showing him what to do by his everyday movements and his actions.
And that's the big thing. Kirk Cousins doesn't know anything to Michael Penix Jr. outside of just being a good teammate and be a professional. And then it's up for Michael Penix Jr. to be like a sponge and just soak up everything that Kirk Cousins is doing. Let's go to the ice. Stars are up 3-0 in the game. It's 2-1 in the series. They're trying to take a 3-1 series lead. We know a 3-0 lead in the series is not safe. And then you had the Avalanche get on the board to make it 3-1. And then in the third period, Dallas ends up winning the game 5-1. But let's hear the goal that put them up 4-1 in the game, which eventually did propel them to a 3-1 series lead. Here's the Stars Radio Network.
Grabbed by Dadonov, up to Heiskanen. Shot, stopped. Georgiev, rebound, loose, scored! Evgeny Dadonov! The net crash, the fourth goal of the game. And with 10.5 left, Dallas is back up by 3.
I thought it was Kevin Burkhardt there for a second on the play-by-play. Let's hear Hurricanes Radio. Rangers up 1-0, then Stahl and Kuznetsov made it 2-1. And then you got this goal to make it 3-1 as the Hurricanes pull away, and they get a Game 5 victory to make this series 3-2, still in favor of the Rangers.
Truba. They give it away to Natchez out in front. Martinook scores! Natchez to Martinook, and it's an offensive explosion in the third period. Carolina has a 3-1 lead.
And there you go, as we needed to hear that once again. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, that will do it for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will catch you mañana, everybody, on a Wednesday edition of the program that always gets started right here at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Big thanks to Carlos Ortiz, to Stuart Kovacs, Marco Belletti, each and every one of you, and also Shane Beamer for stopping by, and Jared Greenberg as well. Enjoy the pucks, enjoy the hoops tonight. We'll chat about it all mañana, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.
You're in a 5-minute break.